Okay, baby. The first poem I'm going to read is untitled. The troubled voices of working machines claim guardianship of useless anemones, given every chance but one to bloom. Would a symphony improve this? With earth like gray, soggy pâté receding behind them, the vines have nearly located the auxiliary source of false energy. Surely anything that can extend itself upon our walls knows more than we, with our constant but surrogate loves and our horizontal harmonies. Real power is inaudible. What could it tell us? Preceded by freesias, the clarinets are making their first appearance here as the entire brass section petitions to leave, entranced by the motion of old mysteries. We are tired of these sad partings, which gave birth to new forms of rhetoric. This poem is titled Efflorescence. What mild occurrences do the next unasked for clouds portend, now that the blue wind is aging gracefully and we are of one opinion about our gardener whose practicality does not extend to planting flowers? Radishes would be great if they grew upside down, shapely red knobs into blue above brown. Homage to Tristan. To know him is to avoid him in streets at dusk and in hallways, or as a profile seen in a window through a courtyard strewn with garbage. The seasons progressed as reflected, all too eagerly proclaiming envious obsessions to foreign chemicals in the air at sunset. I had several responses to this, only the first of which was to quit my job in the abattoir, operating on the principle that sunlight is the best disinfectant. Love is not courtship, and the wind opens to mathematical illusions, eyes replaced by motionless navels awaiting a coach of forgotten destination. You are beautiful, but not because you are composed of fragments which, by mouthing the air, caress themselves. Here is how an hour embraces an hour. But let's not forget the machinery, the mechanical battalion of clinched words at the head of silences contemplating speech. In what incalculable metal are your fingers inlaid? Your bones are impressed by your muscles, though you are tormented by stones. Everyone knows you, formula song, algebraic walking step, sleepless numbers entangled in obscure telegrams. At first I didn't think he knew what he was doing, but I was wrong. He knew exactly what he was doing. The bark of deified trees shelters maggots, but rain runs the clock of organic sorrow. And so, by the porcelain flower, playest chastity on the violin, O medicated astringent to the fires that ascended toward the navel of the luminous, which in itself reveals no lesser reserve than the overexposed upper corners of your photograph, expressed as a brightness out of context. This poem is called Modern Life. A silent tug below and beyond through the trees labors its way up the Hudson. And if I'm rattled when you're not here, does that mean I can no longer amuse myself? Or is it flattery? No, I'd be too embarrassed in front of this river, so barely disturbed by our cargo, though somewhere else it's possible, perhaps even practical. Have we run out of liquor already? I'd like another drink before you. Hello. Oh, I've been right here on the terrace, afraid you'd miss the boat show and the early vintage airplanes. There were 7 of them, really, one after another. Let's not go to the Blue Whale again. Let's eat here. Look, Hungry Man TV dinners. No, if we go there, we'll have to pass the Tic-Toc shop, which was decimated by the last blackout. You remember the pastor. He's asking everyone to help clean up. And if you spend one more night in that black pit, I'll go crazy. What time is? But only if full of endless digressions, saving us from episodes of still less consequence, like a tainted childhood spent among toy serpents. He is the bird making a home on your windowsill, and she is the fresh, clean glass mounted in jade, serving as a barrier to further innuendo, as if it didn't have catalyst enough. They never know what you're talking about. You are that modern. But you never seem happy except when you fade sadly through seriousness. Well, be hermetic if you must, but be jovial by us, because you are all the pronouns, including me. This is called Promise. The study pursuing this painted leather shield, littered with swords alluding to the foreshortening of an upraised arm. The letters keep coming in, asking him for favors, and large piles on the floor, spilling onto the desk. Years ago, they kept the bar room clean. You were asked to go outside to shoot someone, to drop your drink. All June, I bound the rose in sheaves, dreaming of the new species. Suppose they made me sing. But as I write to you now, it is your dogs that are barking, and the sky is darker than you recall, as opposed to lighter than might be imagined, or so it would seem to me, trapped by accident in this tool shed, where for the last week I have considered the practical implications of hammers, wrenches, saws. After we circumvent the insignificant, what will we have to write home about? The rot began when they removed the railings. It wasn't so pronounced at first. There were different ways of speaking the issue that didn't result in children coming forth throwing colored stems from baskets. Where did you come from, and how did it happen you have arrived here? Your unlucky host is unprepared. 5 cubes of ice, a broken phonograph, a few plates. Such is my property, formed of collected particulars, viewed in the aggregate, amused by the sound of it, as of garments, a trailing movement, sometimes to assist the rudder in turning the vessel, but usually to propel the craft, where anchored balloons like complacent schemes dot our little seaside landscape. And it's unsettling how easily you perceive my eye trying to force the thing, while still in that bar room turned tool shed of its own making, where by flashlight I watch the shields painting. I see light and shadow, an infinitely subtle manipulation of green and gold. One knows the railings are still standing somehow, in spite of their distance. But I was right about the balloons. They are not rising, rather swaying, perhaps to the dogs barking, if not my singing. Would you like to come to dinner sometime? I could have the meal catered. Maybe together then we could discover what turns all the lights on. I have fulfilled this dejected song. From now on, Rhapsody. This is called aphthous stomatitis. I should have taken that magenta sky when they showed it to me, but inexplicably, I spent the money on some unspecified shellfish instead. How clearly it seems to me now, I should never have bought those shellfish. They have been a perpetual trouble for me, and for others too, it would appear, that, quote, last year some 3 million passengers on the nation's domestic airlines were left up in the air after their planes landed. Perhaps the most amazing fact about that statistic is that it represents progress. What no figures can reflect, however, is the cloud of anxiety that hovers over all travelers, unquote. This is a strange country you have brought me to, I must confess. not like the one I came from that had fleas and plants and other interesting things. Outside the window, mineral rainbows imitate speech beside the apple castle our prince lives in, while we, I and those others, walk the streets. Between the smoke and some arduous pretext in the background, the livid midday blaze interrupts the morning. They are not to go back empty-handed. They are not to return in their diminutive forms, screech the maidens. Still, one sees no reason why the viruses have departed. I wonder what I am doing sailing away tomorrow afternoon. I wonder why I had an ancestor like that. I wonder what Robert meant about what William had to say. I am trying very hard to figure this out before those children escape that school and start smearing their peanut butter sandwiches all over the sidewalk, so that I cannot hesitate, but am obliged, out of honesty, to continue moving. Dear friends, do not fear. There will still be reversals in the class struggle. Oh, you, whom fate has chosen to be our enemies, take heed and stop the foul phrases you've been singing, or be prepared to live doomed like the driven hummingbird, always on the wing. You see, when I said you were beautiful, what I meant was you look like a truck. He is taking this opportunity to clear the matter up. He has abandoned his parallax. What a prince! What a country! Oh, Dorothy, surely it was without thinking you chose to leave us. This is called At Random. Of postures taken, little indication was given. We were to spend hours watching slender black lines erratically divide fields of primary color. Clouds pursued me with insinuations of previous neglect, like a dried wash rag limply hanging from a towel rack, as if I could no longer remember what year the war would start again, as in, it has all passed before you. Miles of cows digesting undernourished grass and still somehow growing fat. Doesn't the landscape want to be popular? Is this what my forefathers have left me? Maps and a pair of eyes looking at you as if to doubt death would ever be enough? As in, oh, insomnia, so lovely of you, and beautiful, too. Like an angel's grief under an old-fashioned, it is not sufficient to feel that. One more cheeseburger eaten as you combat a formidable swarm of gnats. What, me retreat? You will never see the day, because it is endless night where I am leading you. I have had enough of these yous. Fordham has decreed the universe is angry, licking the green, purple, and blue from a butterfly's wings. Once I believed everyone had smelled it. And then all of a sudden, when I did something, they did something. And when I went out, they wanted to know where. As if morning had reared its ugly head, as in I don't care, this is where the new life begins. Oh, lethargy, when you whisper my name, I come running. But if tin soldiers have rights in the inanimate structure of things, then let my inertia speak for them. Quote, ah, radiant green weed drifts in a crystal bowl where goldfish live. I am in love. It is not like singing. It's instrumental, sounds lying. I am lying. I am lying paralyzed on your veranda, parallel to the earth, which is taking advantage of me, like an old story in which you aspire to nothing more than everything. Someone please come, take these clothes off of me. I can't feel them anymore. You are putting on airs as though to be confusion in the midst of irrational sanity. I am bored with you. My name is Maria. I am 9 years old.
I write a poem to myself every year on my birthday, so This is the one for this year. On turning 35. Cautious, crazy, clumsy, courting heartbreak. But she's the one, the way she always is, because that's the other reason we go on. And we do go on. The other reason being the expression of it, like this, only better. I want to read some poems from a book that's put together out of works done mostly in the 60s, so most of these poems are at least 10 years old, some are older. This is called Sides. From my left side, my oldest child. She will bring me home where I have no home. She will drink toasts to my tunnels and locked doors. She will be the first to puncture my ears with the weight of her new atmosphere. From my right side, my youngest. He is a natural instrument with which to measure the level of the land, the numbers of missing things, things which grow into the earth down, things which eat up intentions, things which are always behind the one who is labeling. He will call them exercises. Now he calls them how we rule the world. They speak of me in terms of meals I eat, levers I activate, suicides I bring home with me from work each day, saved for them to play with. They think of me as much meat, and their mother as the flame on which it burns. Think of them as how it feels to turn off that flame and eat that meat, and know that there is more for all of us. And this is another poem from the same book. It's in 2 parts, short parts. It's called Faggots. 1. Even as suicides, we were tangled snow. Even as groans, we were pure warehouses. Even as bells, we were thrilled. Even now. 2. We do what we do, not knowing what. Our hands clean, teeth hard and bright, eyes stained closing like doors, ours. Last cords shape our wrists. We tear them away to breathe. And this one is called If I Am a Man, It's the kind the subway turnstile makes no noise for as it passes. If I am a man who loved, it was the kind of love that acted like a painting in a frame when it was the wall, that acted like the book when it was the movement of the eyes that were reading it. If I am a man who paid his dues, they were the kind of dues that come from the slack in the leash when the animal at the end has died while you thought it was sleeping. The name of that book is Dues, and it's not too available, unfortunately. Sort of in line with Dues, it's a poem to a friend of mine named Jane DeLynn, also a writer. And this is sort of about her philosophy of life in a way, which is sometimes mine. It's called Life is a Bitch. We fall in love. The love makes us happy. The world makes us less happy. We wonder if it's the love. We get nervous. That makes us jealous. We wonder if the other one can love us like we love them, or if we love them as much as we say, if we feel this nervous way. So we end up fighting, or at least arguing, or at least questioning, or at least being a nuisance to the one we only want to make happy because they have made us so happy, only now they make us nervous. So we use the word bitch, which is sexist, like life, obviously. I mean, we never say, ain't life a prick, though it can be. And sort of, to follow on that, another poem on the theme of love. Sort of rhyming poem. It's called No Other Love Have I. That's a lie, only not a lie. By the time you read this, I might die of love for you. That means something, doesn't it? Even if I do what people might think is falling in love with all kinds of people who think differently, or think I'm swell, or let me touch them any way I want to, or especially any way they have never. Picture this neutral type, maybe public non-commercial FM radio announcer, or cable TV announcer, who knows what he knows, which no one really cares about, and he's talking about the fantasies you've had that you haven't admitted to anyone, and I'm there, touching you wherever you say or he says, and there's tiny birds banging up against the windows trying to get in, to take tiny baths in the places where you're getting wet as my fingers come all over you. I wouldn't say I love you to just anyone, or even anyone I loved. It just doesn't seem like a bright thing to do. Remember in Casablanca how Ingrid Bergman never tells her husband, Victor Laszlo, she loves him, and once, when it seems she might, he stops her and says, I already know, or something so presumptuous you were glad she didn't say it? Well, I'm glad I didn't too. Except I did to you, which is why it seems there really is no other love in my life. Only we both know I love most books, just because they open, if I want them to, and most music because it heightens the effect of my life is a movie, and reminds me of other stars. And I love to eat most food if it's good, and most people if they enjoy it, or seem to, convincingly of course, and the kind of rainy days you get only in cities, usually other cities. Oh well, this could go on forever, like love is supposed to in our dreams. Only in my dreams, love usually appears in the form of little embarrassments from childhood, made right at last. And here's the 5 minutes, I think she's saying to me. She's either saying that or you're really fine, or something like that. Okay. This is called His Story. Father Flanagan, Whitey, and Pee-wee see that all that matters is there never was a bad boy. Bad poets, maybe, or bad singers, even bad bartenders, all the bad things and people we could name in the world. No bad boys, though, right, Father? Right, Whitey, new mayor of Father Flanagan's Boys Town. And just to prove the point, here comes another couple of not bad boys, one being carried. He's not heavy, Father. He's my brother. But what have you done with your sisters, son? Father Flanagan, Mayor Whitey, and Pee-wee see that all that matters is no bad boys. This is a poem called Sonnet. I don't like to mess with inspiration, memory, across the radio. Each time spring breaks, our heart breaks, open again for business. And in this way, word follows word, a chorus of Hollywood magic. Voices tell me, too high to hear, but I'm not nasty. I'm nice guy receptive, so all good things come to pass. Everyone knows I can't resist a lovely ass, and nobody dies of it. I think I'll end with the poem I just dropped on the floor. And 2 other poems. I think I have time for 3 poems. There's a lot of poems around being written today that are sort of based on bad writing, and they're kind of dumb poems. And this poem is about dumb poems in a way, and their movement. It's sort of my version of a certain kind of dumb poem. But it hopefully moves into something else. It's called She's Funny That Way. She's over 16, but still my teenage queen, as clear and direct as a laser beam. She's more special than kiwi fruit with cream. She's not the girl of my dreams, but the star of my dream. She's better than most, the butter on my toast, the coleslaw and Russian on my New York roast beef sandwich on rye. New York? She's the Chrysler Building and 24-karat gilding on my favorite book of notes for reading on the boats we'll take to all the places I used to hate because they seemed so spiteful and dated, separated from her I hadn't met yet but knew I'd recognize when I did, and I'm grateful for the fate that made us us, because she's more than enough of everything I always wanted, and she lets me in on it with only the mild fuss of apprehension over where we go with so much. She's a little strange but nice and twice as good as being recognized by everyone, even Walter Cronkite. Oh, whenever she lets me hover about her skin before she lets me in, I swear I love her bones and everything else inside her as much as I love what she lets me see and the air it all warms up about her and keeps scented from me. I can't do without her. She's the cat's pajamas, the papas and the mamas. She's boss, she's bad, she's a woman from Glad. She's dynamite, she's a little bit of all right. She's psychedelic, she's copacetic, she's right on target and right on time. She's top drawer, she's the bottom line. She's the last chance, she's a taste of something fine. She's one way, the right way, I did it my way, she did it her way. She's rarer than the rarest antique, she's a one of its kind, she's unique, she's the peak. What the meek long to inherit, the wind I speak to in the street at night, walking home alone, but seeing her there in the air all around me. This isn't what I meant it to be, but she is. She's everything I meant her to be, but still she. And she's what she means before I ever enter the scene. She's proud and deep, and I'm loud and need sleep all the time because I run my engine at a steady high speed out of some need to supply energy to the times I have. And she can take that and still be all she needs to be. I swear she's more honest than Abe, more likable than Ike, more sincere than Jimmy, more classy than Jackie. She's greater than Ali, more gaming-like than Aubrey Hepburn or Leslie Caron. She's a cross between Katharine Hepburn and Mary Martin, only not like them at all because she's tough but totally light as air. I wish I could describe the way she sits or stands and paces and taps a cigarette or spaces her quiet observations about everything that matters, like how you work on what's important all the time. Any time left? I had my two big poems saved for the end. The clock on the wall isn't right, kids. Well, I wanted to read some more poems. I mean, it's all right. Huh? Yeah, the clock says 2 minutes. Well, it's okay to talk like this, right? I mean, if people are looking.
Okay, you can talk.